Hi, Steve Cooper, Rank Success, and this is the third video for aspiring sergeants in Greater Manchester Police who have just found out that they have a process in the next few days, couple of weeks, and so everybody's kind of lining up on the starting line to get involved in that preparation and to prepare effectively for this opportunity that's coming up, which, as I understand it, was a bit of a surprise for some people. And so these three videos are what I've been able to put together quite quickly, just to give you some tips, some guidance, some support, and to direct and signpost you to other resources and to support your thinking. And I wish you the best with that. This one is around presentations, because I understand part of the process that you may face will be presentations. Now, presentations are covered in my digital promotion toolkits that are downloadable straight away. There's a 4-hour promotion masterclass in which I talk a little bit more about it. I've also done some blogs on them. There are lots of resources available, but what I wanted to do was supplement and complement that with a few tips and bits of conversation now, just to get you thinking, because this presentation that you'll be delivering will be in the next couple of weeks. So part of that is around practicing, but just talking you through some of the elements around that to get you prepared. Okay, so presentations, you'll normally get a scenario. You don't know what that scenario is going to be yet. That doesn't matter, is my way of thinking about it. It never has mattered. Everybody thinks it matters, and how can you prepare for something that you haven't been told about? We've got your force plan on a page, which I talked about in the previous video. That will be central to your whole preparation, together with the role of a sergeant and those functions and dimensions of a sergeant. What's expected of a sergeant, what's anticipated in terms of how you'll behave. And again, that's all covered in my digital toolkits. So do a deep dive into the role, or a deeper dive than I'm able to do now, into the role functions individually, so that you can kind of come out of that and go, right, now I can add that to my own experience and knowledge and awareness and move forward towards this process. So a presentation, well, presentations and briefings, they tend to merge. Is it a presentation or is it a briefing? Depends what exercise or scenario you get given, but it doesn't really matter what that is, because you can prepare before that, so it doesn't really matter what it is. But let's just say, here's one that I've just pulled from my notes here. As a sergeant, how will you ensure that you and your team work to reduce demand, reduce victimisation, support early intervention, and target those who pose a risk to our communities? So as a sergeant, how will you ensure that you and your team work to reduce demand, reduce victimisation, support early intervention, and target those who pose a risk to our communities? Now, that is something that could have been almost tailor-made for your plan on a page, that kind of presentation. Now, it clearly might not be that, but that's the kind of thing you can work with right now, because it doesn't matter what the scenario is you get given, whether it's a critical incident, whether it's something like that, or whether it's a personnel issue. Many of the themes, the issues of the aspects of the role of a sergeant, how you're expected to behave, the values in the plan on the page, the aims and objectives of the plan to move forward, the promises to the public, all of these things are woven into that scenario. So let's just kind of take a step back a minute and say, first and foremost, there's no excuses. You have all the information and all the resources you need to help you, but what you need to do now is think about refining and distilling your approach to encompass some of that in there. So I've just got some notes up here just to prompt me as to how you might want to start. So first and foremost, briefings, presentations are part of the role of a sergeant and inspector. It's expected that you can do that. It can be stressful, it can be worrying, there can be a bit of anxiety beforehand, but not if you think it through. And that's the first part of preparing for a presentation. There are a number of stages to think it through. I've just given you a scenario, so start thinking it through. There will be some things that come to you immediately, make some notes about them. And the next stage is structure. What kind of structure will you use to present this to a board or to a panel? Because there are a number of structures. I cover them in my digital toolkits and in my 4-hour promotion masterclass. There are a number of structures, alternative options that you can use to think through that may sit better with you and may well align better to certain scenarios. So within APP, Authorised Professional Practice, you've got 2 to start with. So IIMARCHD, which is your technical operational briefing model. There is SAFCOM, which is the briefing up model, which is a really good model for presenting. And again, you don't need to use those bespoke as they are. You can mix and match them and use your own mnemonics. And there's a whole load of stuff around mnemonics I've done. Because why stick with one? A mnemonic is just a way of remembering a chunk of information in a way that's meaningful to you. So you don't need to worry about how anybody else would remember it. So there is IIMARCHD and SAFCOM. So you've got think it through, structure it, have a look at a structure that suits to tell this presentation. Practice and rehearse is the next bit. You know, I notice in some forces, you know, they don't want you to practice or rehearse anything. I take that with a massive pinch of salt, because effectively you're going to be going and doing the first thing that comes into your head, and that's perhaps not the best thing to do. Practice and rehearse, practice and rehearse, practice, practice, practice. Just builds your confidence, raises your awareness, it helps you see how you're going to talk about it. It allows you to hear yourself talking, and it just gives you that degree of personal confidence incrementally as you go through, and then reflect on it, on your delivery. What could you do better? Is it in the way you really ought to do it? Does it reflect and sit and align with the plan on a page? If so, how? Where? Does the plan on a page actually help you to lay out your briefing? So as I say, think it through, work it through, and the structure, link it to a plan on a page. It doesn't matter whether it's a critical incident, it doesn't matter whether it's a complaint from a member of the public, it doesn't matter whether it's a personnel issue. What does the plan on a page, what does your wider document of the future say, how you should deal with that? There will be a lot of guidance in there for you, as well as what you already know as an operational cop. Some of the competencies that may well be tested on that, and I'd be surprised if they weren't, because they sit very nicely with it, is taking ownership. That's the name of the game. Taking responsibility, taking ownership. There's a specific competency of that in the CVF, and making a decision is a great way of taking ownership. So what decisions will you make in this scenario? We're analytical, so that links very well to these scenarios as well. Stage 1 of the NDM, gathering information. It's not just gather information, it's analyse, verify, check and assess the information before you then move on and assess the risks, identify the risks, and your plan for working through them to reduce, avoid or remove them, or accept them. You know, policing's a risky business. You might choose to accept some of the risks, and then looking at your powers, policy and guidance, your options and your contingencies, and actually making a decision, but then reviewing it and coming back and working out, you know, what you would do differently next time and why, and any learning that came out of it. And at the heart of that are the values of GMP and the code of ethics sitting right at the heart of it. So just thinking through and working through, you could use the NDM as your structure for your presentation if you wanted to. These are just some ideas and food for thought. Deliver, support and inspire would be another competency, because actually this document, your plan on a page, your wider document for GMP for building the future, is essentially that competency. Deliver, support and inspire. Deliver for the public, support your team and inspire people as leaders. So have a think around those competencies, which ones might be there. Have a look at the descriptors on those competencies, they will help you. But then ultimately, what will you do? There's a scenario I've given you as a practice one. What will you do? Because this is about forward-facing stuff. How will you get your board subliminally focus forward on what you will do as a newly promoted sergeant, leader, manager, supervisor? Give them an example about how you think, how you're going to make your decisions, what you think is important to you, how you're going to work in conjunction with the competencies and the CVF, that you'll be given some information on which ones they are. And ultimately in doing this, you're realising your own potential. You've already got a degree of confidence and awareness now. This is about supercharging your awareness to the point where you can walk into a promotion panel and deliver this presentation. So just a couple of other things around that. The rule of threes. Some people walk into presentations, say, I'm going to talk you through McKinsey's 7 principles. No, you're not. Not in 10 minutes. And the board are going to go, oh no, you're never going to do it. You're going to crash and burn. Now, you might be that talented one, so don't let me discourage you, who could deliver McKinsey's 7 points or 7 principles through. But the rule of threes is essentially around human beings are hardwired into 3 points. Okay, miles a day helps you work, rest and play. Julius Caesar said, vidi, vidi, vini, vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. Education, education, education. It doesn't matter. You'll find it in publishing and marketing everywhere. Human beings are hardwired into the rule of threes. So 3 slides or 3 bits of flip chart paper, 3 points on each page. You know, nobody cares about your 4th point. If you've got 4 or 5 points to make, go away and write a book about it. This is a promotion presentation. So short, sharp, punching, snappy, and make it linked to the future and what you will do as a newly promoted sergeant, leader, manager and supervisor. So, you know, the rule of threes, think about that. It's covered in my toolkit. KISS, keep it short and simple. is another way of saying it. Leadership, that's at the heart of this. You, leadership, leading forward. It's a leadership role you're going for. One team, the whole of that plan on a page, that wider public document, I'm looking down on the floor, it's not with me. That whole document is around one team, a one team approach in GMP to do it and to get it right, to get to that point where you're one team doing it. And communication. So leadership, one team, communication. There's a lot of changes going on there. Changes generally fail because people haven't communicated. Communication's at fault. Communicate. That's a plan. So leadership, one team, communication is how you're going to get there as well. Think about that running through your presentation as an option, and don't forget that other thing I said earlier on around, you know, the drivers of public confidence, how you link to the drivers of public confidence. So the effective investigation of crime, alleviating antisocial behaviour in communities, telling the public what you do when you do get it right. Tell them we've met the promise, we're meeting that promise we made to you. Here's how we're doing it, and then kind of picking up on anything else that the public want and what's important to them. But telling the public, you know, what you're achieving when you get it right, when you're making those improvements is part of it as well. And delivering, throughout all of this, delivering the very best service that you can personally with the resources that you are given, in spite and despite of all the challenges, because that's a mindset of an effective sergeant going forward. All the while, you'll never be the perfect finished item. You will always be learning and growing and developing. So your CPD is really important. What does that look like now? What does it look like? Will it look like for your teams? Because that's part of your plan on a page as well. I've done a whole load of stuff in 3 short videos. I hope you found it helpful. There's lots of resources you can choose to download. Decision making may well be at the heart of all of this process. So whatever you decide to do, whether you decide to download my toolkit, my 4-hour masterclass, or go and have a look at my free videos, podcasts, blogs to get an understanding of how you might approach this. The good thing is, just to recap, there is time. Okay, the plan on a page is at the heart of what you're trying to do. The role of a sergeant is at the heart of it as well, and delivering effectively for the public is there as well. I think that's about it really. Other than that, I wish you all the very best in the process. Please let me know how you get on, and please think about, you know, if you're not involved in this process, I know some of you may not want to share this with competitors, but you know, if you have a friend, a colleague, a loved one who's going for a promotion who may benefit from these 3 videos and the tips and guidance and available resources, please just let them know it exists, and I'm always interested in any feedback. Until my next video in the series going forward, I wish you all the best. Take care and stay safe.